Hey folks, before we get to today's episode, if you're enjoying Not Suitable for Work, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Welcome to Not Suitable for Work. I'm your host, Peter C. Diamond. You think your office is nuts? Wait until you hear some of these stories.
It's a story I tell people as a cautionary tale of what not to do in a pressure-filled situation.
And there's nothing like making a joke and looking at a room full of people who, are just stone-faced, and they know that you blew it.
He said, there's two guys in town. One guy isn't as good, but he'll show up on time. The other guy is a pothead. Let me make some calls.
With each podcast, I'll interview people who have a humorous work story to share. Along the way, I'll offer tidbits of advice to help you make sense of your own office nonsense. Don't worry, no careers were harmed in making Not Suitable for Work. Names and places may have been changed to protect the not so innocent. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Loose lips sink ships, and when there's alcohol involved, they can also sink careers. Our guest on this episode learns when a drunk mouth speaks a sober mind to the CEO at a company-wide event, it could lead to his undoing.
We'll go back in time, let's say like 2003-ish. This is probably when this was. So I was a really well-established junior art director. I pretty much knew the ropes of promotional marketing. I'd started this small shop in Dallas right out of school. And I'd been there for about a year or so.
After 1 year, you were well established?
Yeah. That joke was supposed to hit a little earlier. Not established at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I still thought I was in college, basically.
All right, just want to be clear.
Right.
Yeah. You can't pull anything over on me, Chad.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sharp. I'm pretty with it.
I thought I knew everything at that age, so. But yeah, I started this place in Dallas, and every year they do this celebration, similar to the Burnett Breakfast, if you have heard of that before.
I have heard of that before.
So I was working on the Jim Beam account at the time, so 23-year-old working on alcohol and whatnot.
Sounds like
it was a young man's dream.
Of course.
Right. We were doing case cards and all that other fun in-store stuff. Yeah, super exciting.
Case cards.
Yeah. Good case card when you see one. It was called Camp Winter. It was named after the founder. He was this old Texas, just kind of sage guy, had all those Texas colloquialism type. He'd come in wearing a cowboy hat and your typical, what you think of a rich Texas oil man, but think of that as in agency man.
Okay.
Yeah. So every year they had this party, and this was my first or second year attending it. And it was a 2-day event, and it was a celebration of the year to where people would get, awards, and they had this thing called the Potato Head Awards. And it was given to teams that were camaraderie and individuals that were doing well, and
why a potato head?
I don't know. They thought they were creative, maybe. And people would decorate them before the week and get really excited and who they're going to give them. It was a surprise. So no one knew who they were getting. No one knew who they were getting. So this he ran the event, and there were workshops. I think one year, this might have been that year. Have you heard of the Red Rubber Ball? The book. Kevin Carroll, I believe was his name. They would get inspirational speakers to get people really excited about promotional marketing. Get them all jazzed up.
Just I can tell you're really excited right now.
Yeah, super excited. This story it gets weird. So we're at the event, the 2-day event, and it was at one of his ranches in North Texas. One of his ranches. He had just sold to Omnicom a couple years ago. He was on his way out. He was ready to, retire.
But he had a pretty good. Man. Sounds like he had a pretty good. Good gig.
I'm sure he had a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
Smart guy though. He was great. So he, over the course of my whole established year as a junior art director, at one point he pulled me into his office and he was like, Chad, I think you should get into account service. And I was like, just got out of art school. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it'll be good for you, trust me. I was like, okay, but thanks, but no thanks.
So is that because like I would be like, so are my design skills
right
not very good? Are you?
Yeah.
Like,
but
what? Oh,
looking back, I was like, man, he was right. So I think moving in, not to time travel to now, but like having those skills early on, I think are super important for a designer or an art director, copywriter, whoever it may be, if you're going to get into like creative management. Just knowing the total landscape of the business, important. He knew that. I thought he was a whatever for suggesting that. How dare you suggest? I went to a prestigious art school at the University of Oklahoma. World renowned. So don't you even. Anyways, I was like, okay, cool. So he had.
I'm well established. 1 year in, I'm well established.
I know exactly what I'm
doing.
Right.
Yeah.
He clearly saw right through that. But back to the Camp Winter activity. So the guest speaker was there. We're getting all jazzed, and it's the second day, and there's like an awards ceremony where they give out these potato heads. Yeah. And we had been drinking all day because that's what you did at these events, and I took advantage of the free alcohol as any young 23-year-old would do. No one ever pulled you aside and said, hey, it's a company event, you might want to tone it down a bit. I had my shorts and flip-flops on. I was super cool, and I thought I was really awesome. But the award ceremony happened. They gave out some awards. This man, I'm sure people figured out at some point, he gets on stage and he starts his whole spiel of, we're really proud of people, and here the first award goes to so-and-so, and everyone's like, posturing and clapping and stuff. And then it gets around to like where I think my team's like getting ready to, they're going to talk about the Jim Beam team. It's going to be cool. And we're going to get a cool award, a potato head award.
Personally decorated by...
Yeah, like it has like some bottles. I don't know what it was. We did not get that award. So crushing defeat, really. But he actually announced someone else. It was a new business pitch. They had won 7-Eleven or retained it at the time. And so I booed him. After he was...
Now, was this a singular boo?
It was a singular boo. It was pretty clear it came from my general direction.
And like, how many people? I don't like. So like, how big was this agency?
This
how
was
many
a
people,
small
like,
promotional agency. There were probably 150, 200 people there. So they had offices in like Dallas, Chicago, New York. It was like a medium-sized agency.
So it's
reputable,
but it's also where it's not so small where you would necessarily stand out immediately.
No, I had quickly, being established, made a name for myself. So I think some people knew, almost everybody knew everybody. Mm-hmm. It felt small enough, but new people came in and out as agencies do. So yeah, it was an event of sorts. There was like a tent in the Texas sky, and like he's on a platform, and I was like, boo. And as soon as I did it, I was like, what did you just do? And he like stopped the whole thing, and he looked at me. He's like, I'm sorry. And people were like awkwardly laughing. And then I was like trying to think of how to recover. I was like, oh, I didn't boo. I woohooed. Like super not anywhere near the sound of a boo. Of a loud, low boo. Turned into like a girly woohoo at the end. So yeah, I booed the CEO of the company. But it didn't stop there because the bar was still open. And so...
But, well, okay. So then after you tried to recover with the woohoo. Right. He did you like?
He said something like some smart ass remark of like he normally had quips, and he would be like, "What'd you say there, cowboy?" or something. I was like, "Oh, nothing."
And then he just went on.
And then he went on, and then people were like, "Oh God, like, oh, hey, remember when you like booed the CEO up on stage?" And So this was off-site. So then toward the end, as the night was winding down and we're all good and ready to go to bed, the director level people would stay on the ranch, and then all the minions would go back on a bus back to Dallas. But we all had to drive everywhere because you drove everywhere in Dallas. And so my car was at a hotel in Plano somewhere, which is north of Dallas. And they're like, you shouldn't probably be driving home. I was like, that's a great idea. They got me a hotel room at this hotel somewhere that I was at. There was a prom in the hotel. This was like in May time frame. And there were like a good 5 or 6 of us that just decided to stay at this hotel bar, and I had a room, and I was going to stay there and stay in my cool outfit and walk into this prom, and I just go for the buffet line at the prom, and I go into the hotel, just help myself, grab some cake and some chicken fingers and a whole plethora of food. And people were just like, oh my God, you actually did that. I didn't think you were going to go into a prom and grab food. Like, the whole day was just ridiculous. And then, things happen. Like, what? I don't remember really much else after that.
Why would you?
So then I wake up and like, where am I? I'm in like my shorts and flip-flops. I'm beet red, like sunburned. Had been in the sun drinking all day. I probably don't remember that the prior day. And I wake up to like, that was when flip phones, and I had like 50 text messages. They're like, hey, you okay? You like disappeared last night. So I don't know where that went, but there was a lot of like, you remember booing the CEO last night? I was like, oh yeah, I did that. So that happened, and then Monday, I like slowly go in the office, and I'm like trying to hide.
So this was the end. So like, so this was like day 2 of the 2-day thing. So it's over, right. And so now people are just kind of
tail between the legs.
People are just checking in to check in.
Right. Okay. Checking in to see if I'm still alive. And I thought that's what people did. You go to these work events and you have a good time, and why not? Say
what's on your mind.
Right. He saw me right off the bat, and he was like, I need you to come into my office. And I was like, here we go. This is it. And he's like, have a seat, young man. I was like, oh God. He's like, I want to tell you something. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, like, and like, so what's his office like?
It's like a corner office.
Is this like
there's like some cow skin on the wall.
I'm thinking of like, there's definitely
there's like a
game hunter or like game hunters, stuff like antlers and I don't know. I'm kind of going very.
It was next to the smoking room.
Oh, okay.
There in the building there was a room where you could smoke, which 2003.
Yeah,
right.
They were probably the tail existed.
End of that.
Yeah,
and we had a cigarette client, I believe, so they probably paid for it.
Okay.
But he pulled me into his office, and I'm like shaking, just ready to get let go. I was like, my days are over. And he's like, I need to tell you something. You booed me this weekend. He's like, if you ever pull that shit again. And he like looked me dead in the eyes. I'm like, huh? And then he just like starts cracking up laughing. And he's like, you've got some balls for doing that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. Wasn't that funny? That was great, right? And he's like, it wasn't a great idea. He's like, but you need to go ahead and think about your consequences. And he said some kind of like old fatherly advice to me, but he totally like played it off. And I mean, I never did that again. But I just remember thinking, I was like, wow, I was dead. I was done for being so stupid and young and making poor decisions. And he knew, I think he saw, I don't know, he probably thought he thought I was the established person I thought I was. But yeah, I ended up being there for like 8 more years.
Really?
Yeah. So he didn't fire me for booing him on stage at an award show.
And then what happened like after that, as far as did you get like street cred then did you have like total street cred in the office? It would be
I was like totally like walking,
it's kind of like he booed the CEO.
Yeah,
He's still
look at that
like
cool guy.
kind of like
all the
nothing
older
happened.
people were like, look at this prick. Like, can you say? I probably can't say that on here. Put an E next to it. I think it was the younger generation was moving in at this time, so there was a good group of us. There were probably like 15 or 20, like in our early 20s, that we thought we run that place, which we didn't, obviously. But that was like the cool thing for a little bit, and then luckily people forgot about it, and it didn't make my reputation seem so douchey. At least I don't think it did. But yeah, it was just a thing where I'm like, that's something you want to tell people not to do.
So did you? So I have a couple questions for you.
I'm sure.
So the first one, which is just kind of a burning question, is: did you ever win a Potato Head Award?
I think I did.
Did you?
I did. I eventually won one. I think the next year or two.
All right. So there was a little some
sweet redemption. I think, this was when budgets were at their highest point, and then they just slowly went down after that. And I think we had one or two more, and then they cut them out, and then they brought them. It was similar to the breakfast, where it would be a big blowout event, and then it would be like in the lobby of a hotel, and like enjoy your drink tickets.
Yeah. So especially that time,
it was nowhere near the production value of the breakfast, but.
For those of you
Not
who
that
don't
I would know about that.
The Leo Burnett breakfast.
The Leo Burnett breakfast.
The infamous.
Yes.
So then, so you kind of moved past that. And then for future kind of work events, what were your
Didn't change much.
What were your drinking strategies?
Just full throttle all the way. Like, I think that's how I made the most friends over a few drinks. No, I learned an early exit strategy, at least around the higher up people, and then the young kids would go out and do their own thing, where there weren't people to kind of see the debauchery we're getting into.
Yeah.
But I think I realized that you should probably keep it a little tight-lipped when you're around the presence of senior people with lots of alcohol. Yeah.
So you said no one ever took you aside to. Did you when you became kind of like the boss or the manager? Would you take people aside? Would you then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I never did the whole "this is what happened to me and I don't want this to happen to you." But as you progressed in your career and you started being responsible for people's career paths, and you see them kind of going down the slippery slope of I wouldn't do that. It would, I like to have a good time. And it's like, we can all enjoy ourselves over a couple drinks or a glass of wine or whatever. But I was like, look, people, you need to understand the perception of what you're doing right now. And you might think it's great in the scenario, and you might think you're funny and awesome and go enjoy yourself. But those have repercussions down the line. It's like, I just want you to be aware of that. I'm not condoning what you're doing, but just be self-aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the people around you, that the things you stupidly say could come back and, may or may not hurt you.
And what would you do if the role was reversed? So if you now are the guy on stage who's getting
someone who's
getting heckled.
God, I feel terrible
by an established youngster,
an established 22-year-old. Man, I mean, I think you use humor and deflection at that point, and you have a chat at the end. I think you pull it off pretty well.
Would you forgive?
Of course. Yeah, unless they said I sucked or something. A boo is pretty mild, they could say far worse.
And it was, I guess booing at.
Well, this was before everyone had their phones out. When you're at an event now, people are they're not even looking at the presenter, they're just filming it. And so everything you say now is captured on multiple channels of junk. And luckily, there was no evidence of that ever happening.
I was going to say.
So I could be totally lying at this point. No one would know. We could probably call up some old people, and they might recall that hot Texas night.
Because now there'd be a continued loop of you booing.
Yeah, it would just be on repeat every 6 seconds.
Being passed around social media.
Yeah. They're like, junior art director gets fired from agency for booing CEO.
All right.
But yeah, I made it out on the other end, I think. I left Texas for one. I mean, that was a start. Yeah. So yeah, that was my story.
All right. It's great.
Yeah. This was fun.
All right. Pleasure. And there's some great lessons for all of us
I hope so.
To keep in mind.
Don't do what I do.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank
Great seeing
you.
you.
Yeah, you too.
Chad's story is not unusual. I've seen it happen time and time again at company events with newbies and free-flowing alcohol. While speaking your truth after one too many may be okay, when you decide to tell your best friend that you're sleeping with his ex, it doesn't serve you well when you're attending your first work event. It could put your job in jeopardy. So here are a few cardinal rules when boozing with the boss. If tequila makes you nutso crazy, don't drink it, no matter how good the margaritas are. It's never a good idea to get a little buzzed before a company event. Ever. Keep a 1-to-1 ratio of alcohol to water, preferably not sparkling. Reason? No reason. I just don't like sparkling water. Sorry, LaCroix. And finally, when in doubt, remember, liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Beer before wine, you'll be just fine. If you want more Not Suitable for Work or have a work story to tell, be sure to follow us on Facebook at Not Suitable for Work. You can find our podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. I'm Peter C. Diamond. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter C. Diamond. Not Suitable for Work is produced by Matt Cunningham at Truthful Enthusiasm. Get your story online with truthfulenthusiasm.com. Until next time.